Down the Great Avenue through the heart of Beijing, the missiles roll past the cameras. Hypersonic weapons, carrier killer missiles built to sink American warships, an intercontinental missile that can reach any city in the United States. Stealth drones with no one inside. Rank after rank, China showing the world the arsenal it spent 20 years building in the dark. And it isn't only the parade. A tailless sixth-generation jet climbs over Chengdu. A brand new submarine slips quietly out to sea. A missile fired from deep in the desert reportedly strikes a moving ship 1,000 miles away. So here is the question this episode exists to answer. Is this real? A military that has quietly caught, maybe even passed, the United States? Or is it theater? Polished steel rolling past the cameras, hiding a force that has never fought a modern war. And if it's real, is China now climbing toward the one title America has held unchallenged for 80 years? The most powerful military on Earth. How strong has it actually become? Where has it pulled ahead? And where is it still bluffing? Where is it putting its forces, its money, its entire bet? This is Future War Tech. Stay with us to the end, and you'll walk away with the real answer across the sea, the sky, the fire, and the shield. Plus, the single date Beijing appears to be quietly counting down to. Look away, and all you'll ever have is the parade. The scale. Before we go arena by arena, you need to feel the size of the thing. The People's Liberation Army is the largest active military force on Earth, roughly 2 million men and women in uniform. But raw size was never China's problem. For most of its history, the PLA was a huge, heavy land army. Millions of soldiers, not much reach. What changed is what Xi Jinping did to it. In 2016, he tore up the old structure and rebuilt the force around 5 theater commands, regional war headquarters, each aimed at a different threat. Remember one of them, the Eastern Theater Command, run out of Nanjing, staring straight across the water at Taiwan. Then, in 2024, he reorganized again, standing up dedicated forces for space, for cyberspace, for information warfare. And he gave China something no other country on Earth has, an entire branch of the military whose only job is missiles. The PLA Rocket Force, around 3,000 of them and growing. Hold on to that, it's going to matter. Now, the 4 arenas. We start where China's lead is already real. The sea. Chapter 1. The Sea. The number that broke the myth. We opened with that number for a reason. 8 ships to more than 1,000. According to the U.S. Navy's own intelligence, China's shipbuilding capacity is more than 200 times America's. One leaked Navy estimate put it at 230 to 1. And here's the part most people miss. A container ship is not a destroyer, but the shipyard that builds the container ship is the same yard that builds and repairs the destroyer. Capacity isn't about the ship you can see, it's about the ship you can replace. By raw count, China already has the largest navy in the world, around 370 warships to the U.S. Navy's 290 or so. In 2023, the Secretary of the Navy told Congress something that should have led every newscast in the country. A single Chinese shipyard, he said, has more building capacity than all of American shipbuilding combined. 1 yard. Against all of us. So let's actually look at what that yard is turning out, because it isn't just numbers anymore. It's the quality, climbing fast. Start on the surface with the ships meant to be seen. China now has 3 aircraft carriers. The first, the Liaoning, was a rebuilt Soviet hull bought second-hand, a hand-me-down. The second, the Shandong, China built herself. And the third, the Fujian, is the one that should make you sit up. Commissioned in late 2025, the Fujian launches its jets with electromagnetic catapults, the same cutting-edge system on America's newest carrier, the Gerald R. Ford. 20 years ago, China couldn't build a working catapult. Now it's on its 3rd carrier, with a plan for as many as 9 by 2035. The United States still has 11, still the most battle-tested. But watch the direction everything is moving. Guarding those carriers is a warship NATO calls the Renhai class, the Type 055. The Chinese call it a destroyer. At over 13,000 tons, carrying 112 missile launch cells, it's larger and more heavily armed than most ships the West calls cruisers. A floating command center built to run an entire battle group. A decade ago, China had nothing like it. Now it's building them in series. But the surface fleet isn't where the real warning lives. It's underneath. For years, America's trump card was the submarine. And on paper, it still is. The U.S. Navy runs about 71 nuclear-powered submarines, the largest and quietest force of its kind in the world. China has roughly 32. America wins that count, and it wins it decisively. Here's the problem. China's submarines used to be loud, older boats compared to Soviet designs from the 1970s, easy for American sensors to hear coming. That gap is closing. China is now building the largest run of nuclear-powered attack submarines on the planet, the Type 093B, and a new class of missile submarine, the Type 096, projected to be nearly the size of an American Ohio-class boomer, and far quieter than anything China has ever put to sea. Each one is designed to carry 24 missiles called the JL-3, with the range to strike the continental United States from China's own home waters. Listen to that again. From its own coastline, a Chinese submarine may soon hold every city in America at risk. And then there's the one category that tells you what all of this is actually for. In December 2024, China launched a warship called the Sichuan, the first of the Type 076 class. It looks like a small aircraft carrier, and in a way, it is. The first amphibious assault ship in the world built with an electromagnetic catapult, big enough to launch not just helicopters and marines, but fixed-wing aircraft and combat drones off its deck. 40,000 tons, 1,000 marines, and it joins 3 slightly older big-deck amphibious ships, the Type 075 class. Now ask the obvious question. What does a country build a fleet of amphibious assault ships for? You don't need them to defend your own coast. You build them to carry troops across open water, onto someone else's shore. And there is exactly one shore that explains this entire program. It sits about 100 miles off the Chinese coast. Now, the honest counterweight, because you deserve it. 1,000 commercial ships a year is not 1,000 warships. America still holds a real edge under the water, in the silence of its submarines, and in crews that have actually fought. China's Navy hasn't fought a war at sea in over 40 years. But the foreign policy journal, Foreign Affairs, framed the danger better than anyone. In a long war, a war of losses where ships sink and have to be replaced, industrial muscle beats experience. And it drew the comparison that should chill anyone who knows the history. In World War II, it was America that buried Imperial Japan under sheer production in the Pacific, the arsenal of democracy.
We must be the great arsenal of democracy. For us, this is an emergency as serious as war itself.
Today, in that exact comparison, we are not the arsenal. We are Japan. So the sea already belongs, in numbers and in build rate, to China. America comforts itself with a different belief, that whatever happens on the water, no one rules the sky like we do. Then came a night over Chengdu. Chapter 2. The Sky. First to fly, last to field. December 26, 2024. A crowd on a bridge in central China pulls out their phones. Overhead, something is climbing into the gray. Huge, tailless, 3 engines. A shape no air force in the world has ever flown. Within hours, the footage is everywhere. Western analysts stare at it and reach the same uneasy conclusion. China just flew a 6th-generation fighter in broad daylight, on purpose. They call it the J-36, built in Chengdu. And it wasn't alone. A second prototype, the J-50, flew out of Shenyang the same week. Smaller, twin-engine, the kind of aircraft you'd build to fly off a carrier deck. 2 next-generation fighters, 2 design teams. One unmistakable message to Washington. We are not behind you anymore. We may be ahead. Here's what makes the J-36 remarkable, and we'll keep this brief because the airframe matters less than the meaning. It's enormous, somewhere around 55 to 65 tons, closer to the weight of a bomber than a fighter. That size buys range and payload. It can carry missiles deep into the Pacific, and it's built to act as a quarterback, flying ahead of a swarm of robot wingmen, the unmanned combat drones China has been rolling out at parades, machines like the Flying Wing GJ-11 and the newer GJ-21, built around engines China now makes itself. And that phrase, engines China makes itself, is the quiet revolution underneath this whole story. For 30 years, the jet engine was China's humiliation. They could copy an airframe, but they couldn't build the screaming hot core at its center, so they bought Russian engines and fell short. That era is ending. China's domestic WS series engines are now judged by serious analysts to rival the engines NATO air forces fly. The students stopped buying. The students started building. So where is America's answer? The U.S. Air Force's 6th-generation fighter is called the F-47, built by Boeing. And as of right now, it has never flown in public. It sits in a hangar in St. Louis under a level of secrecy that is the deliberate opposite of China's open testing. No public flights, no photos, only blurred official renderings, and a target first flight in 2028. Washington's plan is for around 185 of them, a number already trimmed from earlier, bolder ambitions. Play that back. China has flown multiple prototypes of a 6th-generation jet out in the open. America has shown no public flight of the F-47 itself. Whatever classified demonstrators may have flown behind the curtain, the production fighter Washington is betting on has yet to take to the sky where anyone can see it. The South China Morning Post, often useful for understanding how Beijing wants its progress perceived, put it bluntly. Their jet is deep in flight testing, while America's is still on the drawing board. Now, the counterweight, and it's a strong one. A first flight is not a fielded weapon. Flying a prototype doesn't mean a combat-ready squadron tomorrow. America's real advantage isn't the jet at all. It's everything around it. The networked drones, the battle-tested pilots, the decades of running the most complex air operations in history. China has the hardware. It has never run the play under fire. But notice the pattern forming. On the sea, China leads in mass. In the sky, China leads in tempo, moving faster, testing in the open, fielding on a clock. Two arenas, Two kinds of lead, and both of them are about winning a battle. There's a third arena that isn't about winning a single battle. It's about something larger and more frightening. Because while the world watched China's ships and China's jets, it quietly built something no other nation on Earth has. An entire branch of its military designed for one purpose: to strike. Chapter 3. The Fire. The service built only to strike. Remember the rocket force? Now we collect. No other military on Earth has done what China did. Carve out an entire branch of its armed forces whose sole purpose is missiles. Not an army that has missiles, a force that is missiles. Around 3,000 of them, conventional and nuclear. And the most feared family in the whole arsenal shares two letters: DF, Dongfeng, East Wind. Let me introduce the ones that keep American admirals awake. Start with the DF-21D, the first ballistic missile in the world built to hit a moving ship at sea. They call it the carrier killer, and that is not marketing. It is designed to drop out of the edge of space onto the deck of an American aircraft carrier. Then, its bigger brother, the DF-26. Range around 2,500 miles. Far enough to reach the U.S. island of Guam, the most important American base in the Western Pacific. In China, they nickname it the Guam Express. And this is not theory. In 2020, China fired a DF-26 from Qinghai, deep inland, more than 1,000 miles from the sea, and reportedly struck a moving ship out in the South China Sea. A land-based missile hitting a vessel underway across that kind of distance. Let that sink in. Then, the DF-17. Instead of arcing high and predictable, it carries a hypersonic glide vehicle that skims and swerves through the atmosphere faster than a mile a second, built specifically to slip under and around the missile defenses America has spent decades and hundreds of billions of dollars building. And then, the one I promised you at the start. In December 2025, the Pentagon assessed that China is now fielding the DF-27, an anti-ship ballistic missile with the reach to threaten targets as far away as the west coast of the United States. Listen to that clearly. An anti-ship missile that can cross the entire Pacific Ocean. For the first time, the American homeland is inside the arc. Put these on a map, and China's whole strategy snaps into focus. From the Chinese coast, those missiles draw expanding rings, past Taiwan, past Okinawa, out to Guam and beyond. A wall of fire across the Western Pacific. Planners have a clinical name for it: anti-access area denial. In plain English, come near our coast and bleed. China didn't build this to invade California. It built it to make the price of defending Taiwan too high for America to pay. And all of that is only the conventional half. Let's be precise, because precision builds trust. China is not about to outgun America's nuclear stockpile. It isn't close. The United States holds roughly 3,750 nuclear weapons. China has around 600. So why is the Pentagon genuinely alarmed? Speed and intent. For decades, China sat on a few hundred warheads, just enough to promise that if you hit them, they'd hit back. Then, around 2020, American satellites caught it. Hundreds of new missile silos rising out of the desert near Yumen, near Hami, near Hangin Banner. Roughly 350 of them. One of the fastest nuclear build-outs any nation has attempted since the Cold War. The Pentagon now projects China will blow past 1,000 warheads by 2030. Its newest intercontinental missile, the DF-41, can range the entire continental United States and carry multiple warheads on a single launch. For the first time, China is fielding a true nuclear triad: on land, at sea, and in the air. And in 2021, it tested something that stopped the Pentagon cold, a weapon that flew partway around the world through low orbit before gliding back down toward its target. The idea was to come at America from the south, around the back of the planet, dodging the early warning radars that all point north. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, said it was very close to a Sputnik moment, the same word Americans reached for when the Soviets shocked the world in 1957. Here's why this should land with you personally. Pentagon assessments have warned that Beijing could reconsider its nuclear posture, even the option of using a nuclear weapon first if a conventional defeat over Taiwan ever threatened the survival of the regime itself. That single possibility turns a fight over an island 7,000 miles from California into something that could reach every American city. So the warhead count says China hasn't passed us. The speed and the willingness behind it says don't take comfort in the count. But a spear is only terrifying if it can actually get through. And China's next bet is that America may not be able to stop it. This is where the contest disappears into the dark. Chapter 4: The Shield. Can anyone catch the spear? So China has the largest missile force on Earth and a real lead in hypersonic weapons. Now only one question matters. Can America see them coming and stop them? Washington has answered out loud, and the answer is uncomfortable. Senior officials have testified that America's current defenses were never built to stop a peer like China. Not the hypersonics that swerve, not the advanced cruise missiles, and above all, not a saturation strike. Hundreds of weapons arriving at once to swamp any shield. That admission is the reason the Trump administration launched a program called Golden Dome, a layered defense reaching into space with a price tag around $175 billion, meant to do for the American homeland what today's systems cannot. And here's the twist, and we flag it as a claim worth watching, not gospel. Chinese state-linked researchers working through the Nanjing Research Institute of Electronics Technology have claimed Beijing may already be ahead, that it's tested its own continent-scale detection network while America is still drawing up blueprints. Propaganda timed to needle Washington, or the real thing? We don't know yet. But the fact that it's even plausible tells you how far this has come. But every shield has a brain, and every brain in modern war runs on chips. And that is where China's wall of fire shows its first real crack. The missiles, the radars, the AI that stitches a battle network together. All of it runs on advanced semiconductors. And the most advanced chips are the one thing China still cannot reliably make for itself. It has gone nearly self-sufficient in ships, in missiles, in shipboard electronics, even at last in the jet engines that humbled it for 30 years. But at the cutting edge of silicon, it still leans on the outside world, which is exactly why Washington has thrown up export controls to choke that supply. A nation that can outbuild the planet in steel, held back by a sliver of silicon smaller than your thumbnail. That single weakness is the best card America still holds. The only question is how long it lasts. So now the scoreboard is split. China leads where the next war may begin. America leads where a long war may end. Which one matters more? Chapter 5: The Bet. Two empires, two clocks. Let's be precise, because precision is the whole point. Here is where China has genuinely passed the United States: the number of warships, and the capacity to build and repair them, the size of its conventional missile force, its lead in hypersonic weapons, the sheer tempo of its next-generation aircraft. And here is where America still leads, and not by a little. Aircraft carriers, the silence and number of its submarines, the size of its nuclear arsenal, real combat experience, and a global web of alliances and bases China cannot come close to matching. That last point deserves a number because it flips the whole story. China, for all its strength, has essentially one true overseas military base in Djibouti on the Horn of Africa, with a second taking shape at Reem in Cambodia near the Strait of Malacca. One, maybe two. The United States has around 750 scattered across the planet. And that contrast unlocks everything. Because these two militaries were never trying to be the same thing. China built a force to win one war, close to home, fast. Every piece fits that bet. The carrier killers, the island fortresses in the South China Sea, the amphibious ships, the rocket force, the wall of fire. Its main war headquarters, the Eastern Theater Command, sits in Nanjing and looks straight at Taiwan. It is a military built for one fight, in one place, against a clock. The year 2027, the date the Pentagon says Xi Jinping has ordered his forces to be ready to take Taiwan by force, if he gives the word. America built the opposite, a force to project power anywhere on Earth, to fight far from home, to hold a global order together. Magnificent reach, and stretched thin across the whole planet, riding on an industrial base that quietly withered while China's roared. Two empires, two completely different bets, two different clocks. So who leads the future? The honest answer, the only honest answer, is that it depends entirely on which war actually comes. If the war is short and close to China and comes before 2030, a sudden strike over Taiwan decided in weeks, then nearly every advantage tilts toward Beijing. Home field, concentrated force, the capacity to absorb losses and keep building, while America's supply lines strain across 7,000 miles of ocean. But if the war is long or global, or, best of all, never comes at all, then America's edges reassert themselves. The alliances, the submarines, the experience, the reach. Time favors the side that can fight everywhere for years. That's the real finding of this episode. The United States is not losing because it grew weak. It's at risk because it may be preparing brilliantly for the wrong war. A long, global struggle, while its rival prepares ruthlessly for a short, local one. China studied the American military for 40 years, and it reached a conclusion that should unsettle us more than any single weapon, that America's kind of power, the kind built to rule every ocean at once, is exactly the kind that's vulnerable to a nation that only wants to rule one sea decisively on a deadline. So it didn't try to become us. It built the mirror image and aimed it at a single point on the map. By 2027, we may find out whether Beijing's bet was real and whether America saw it in time.